Conditions still good as the 600 riders come to the line, and that's good because they're all on, would you believe, standard road tyres, and that's what makes this class very interesting. Number 10 in your picture now, Paul Brooks. He's the man who surprised us all by winning the Cadwell round last year, but has never really shown that form since. He's been off the bike a couple of times. He's on the front row now, so that means he might be finding some of that old form again. Alongside him, number 21, Jim Moody. Surprise attender on the front row. That'll be interesting to see how Moody goes. He's obviously found a little bit of speed out of his machine as well. In the middle of the row, fellow Scotsman Ian Simpson from Dalbeattie, number 22. He was a Suzuki runner last year. He's on Honda now. Ian Simpson, formerly Jamie Whittam's teammate. We shall see. In the middle of the row, alongside him, Mike Edwards. Mike Edwards from Wigan, who finished second in last year's championship. Very quick. He's currently lying in fourth this year on 8 points. He slid off at Cadwell. He'll want to do better than that this time. And on pole position from Southend-on-Sea, number 5, Phil Borley. 25 years of age, Phil Borley, pole position here at Pembrey. A very rapid circuit. Roger Burnett gave us the rider's eye view. An unusual view because our camera situated, would you believe, on the helmet of Roger Burnett. A lot of noise goes on when a machine is going at this
Pembrey
sort of
race
speed.
circuit in Wales. My name's Roger Burnett. I'm going to take you for a lap on the Durex Suzuki around this twisty circuit. Accelerating from the start down to Hatchet Hairpin. This is the slowest part on the course. Go down right down to first gear, taking it about 30 miles an hour here. Front wheel lifts coming out here slightly. Then up into Spitfire corner, into third gear, 70 miles an hour. Then right over to the right-hand side of the track, into this left. Paddock bend, it's a very long corner this. Back up to fourth gear. 90, 100 miles an hour here, exiting here. And over to the left-hand side of the road for the S's. Important this corner, exiting the S's here. First part there is taking about 90 miles an hour, then down 1 gear back to third. Exiting here is very important. This is onto the Speedway straight. Second fastest part on the course, up to fourth, fifth gear here. Very fast pink here, Woodlands corner. Before you go back down 1 gear to fourth gear into Forest Curve. Again, an exit speed on this corner, very important here at Pembrey, because this goes on to the start and finish again. It's the fastest part of the course, 130 miles an hour, before down to first gear again for the hairpin.
I'm not surprised there was a quaver in Roger Burnett's voice, and the wind buffeting the helmet could be clearly heard, but a lot going on there. Busy, busy, busy. Roger Burnett on the Suzuki. Front row again as the 600s reform. We're promised a classic battle here. Phil Borley on pole, Mike Edwards, Ian Simpson, Jim Moody and Paul Brooks. Steve, can Paul Brooks repeat that stunning performance of last year?
I'd like to think so, but he's had a very lean year. He started off by tumbling early on and he broke a collarbone, but he's going to be very determined. He needs to prove to a lot of people that he still warrants the support and sponsorship he has. He's got a fabulous start and takes the lead into the first corner.
20 laps ahead of the riders, 29.12 miles. The 600s, all very, very evenly matched. Four-cylinder, 600cc four-stroke machines, all on road tyres, and that is a very important factor in this race because the 600s demand an awful lot of riding and it makes things much more even. We've been treated to some tremendous 600cc battles in the past, and it looks as though this race is going to be no exception. We already have a breakaway pair at the front of the pack, but the top 5 really all in contention now as they get halfway round the first lap, waiting to pick up the leader.
Still Paul Brooks. Paul Brooks does lead. Paul's sponsored by Astrolite wheels, so stuck by him through his lean times, and he's out there to prove that he deserves that support, and he's certainly looking good at the moment. Paul's always had a very quick motorcycle. He's prepared by an engine unit of John Noble, who also prepares car engines, but he's going very, very well here. And you can see the speed of the 600 Yamahas. He extends that lead by only a few inches, but that's quite a lot with 600 racing.
They stream past at the end of the first lap. Paul Brooks on the outside. Number
Steve
37.
Ives goes wide there. He tried to outbrake Paul Brooks and he ran wide.
Steve Ives second in the first leg. Fell off at Cadwell. Can he do anything about it? He's in second and going well. Number 37, Steve Ives.
Yeah, it's dropped Steve Ives back to fourth position now. You saw he made a rather desperate move there. The rear wheel had locked up and you saw the machine snaking into the corner. But he's still in there. He's still having another go. It's not deterred him that one little bit. So Steve Ives is still charging, but he's lost those 3 positions.
Number 37 there, Steve Ives. Ahead of him, number 21, Jim Moody. Jim Moody was on the front row. Steve Ives, of course, wasn't on the front row as Paul Brooks goes off the circuit in a wobble, and he lets number 26 through. That's Gary Weston. So Gary Weston in second place in the championship took the very wet win at Cadwell last week. Gary Weston leads the race. Paul Brooks on the outside. Jim Moody, number 21. The Scotsman goes through. So Jim Moody now up into second. Paul Brooks looking a little bit ragged. He's now relegated down to third. A lot of scrapping going on. The 600, Steve, as usual, giving us a battle royal.
Yeah, well, the machines are so equal. They're nearly all Yamahas. The Yamahas are going very, very fast this year. You can see Brooks goes wide there. He's on the rough stuff, on the dirt. The rear wheel will be spinning, losing traction. And you can see our number 26 there just pulls into the lead because he's got the bite. So that was a really nice shot.
Gary, and tremendous action, but it's still the same man at the front of the pack, number 26, Gary Weston from Ashford in Kent on the Cat Motorcycles Yamaha. Gary Weston leading from number 21, Jim Moody. These two now pulling away from the rest of the pack. So, good fun here at Pembrey as Gary Weston leads Jim Moody.
Yeah, and he's Gary Weston, the winner at Cadwell Park last weekend. He proved then he could do it in damp conditions, and he's proving to be a very worthy opponent here today in perfect conditions. You saw the front end of that machine pattering a little bit. The circuit is pretty smooth, so I don't know if he has a wheel weight problem or something like that. The slightest little bit of outbalance on these wheels can cause the rider a problem, but he's still going very fast.
And a faller there, number 22, that's Ian Simpson. Ian Simpson is down, so that's bad news for Ian Simpson. The rider up and away, the machine being helped away from the circuit. In third place, it's number 33, Mark Farmer. Now, Mark Farmer was going well as well at Cadwell last week. He had a good ride. So Mark Farmer now, going there, he is now, he's behind Steve Ives. Ives has gone past. Ives now up to third, Farmer down to fourth. There's Steve Ives on the yellow machine, number 37. A second place already under his belt, so 9 points. He's more than capable of winning the race, and he's having another good go. So number 37, Steve Ives, up into third, and going again from Hyde in Cheshire, Steve Ives. 25 years of age, had his first ride in the TT this year, and thoroughly enjoyed it, and in his own words, he'll be going back for more.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. Mark Farmer only qualified down in 14th position on the fourth row, so he's obviously had a problem in practice, or he's found a quicker line on this circuit, because he wasn't going at all well in training, but he's charging through. But number 26 here, Gary Weston, he's pulled out a major lead here, because for 600 racing, if you can get a yard on anyone you're doing well, he looks behind. Got to be careful looking behind too much. You can slow yourself down. You can see the riders tucked in behind the screen, trying to keep themselves behind the fairing. Makes a lot of difference to speed.
Jim Moody, number 21, the Glaswegian, relegated to third as Steve Ives, the flyer from Hyde in Cheshire, storms up to second. Really has now set his sights on the race leader. So Gary Weston under pressure. Steve Ives is on the charge. The computer tells you 1.03. That's really good, 82.4 miles an hour, almost the same sort of pace as the 750s. A good ride by Steve Ives, considering they're on street-legal tyres.
Yeah, quite amazing. And it is also amazing how fast they are lapping. In fact, the 250cc Grand Prix machines will lap this circuit just as fast as the 750, because the gearing is so low and the corners are so tight. A small, nimble machine can lap the circuit just as fast. Proving so is Mr. Weston here. He's only 2 seconds slower than the big 750s that produce probably 35 brake horsepower more and also slick tyres.
Now look at Steve Ives. He's really piling on the coals now, and he's having a go, and he's through on the inside. So the 1988 fourth place in the Junior Stock Championship rider has been overtaken again, so the battle is really on now between these two. Gary Weston and Steve Ives from Hyde in Cheshire. He was only 16th in the 1989 series with Steve Ives, but he's now vying for contention here. He's lying in third place in the championship on 9 points, and he's going for the 10 here if he can. That would move him on to a very strong position indeed, but Gary Weston is having none of it. Gary Weston, number 26, from Ashford in Kent, who was third in 1989, is looking for the win in 1990, and very capable. It seems that, Steve, some of the 600 riders excel in 600s and don't really show their true colours at other classes.
Yeah, it's a lot of difference riding on these production type tyres. The machines tend to squirm and wobble around a great deal, and a rider that's come up through the ranks on 250 Grand Prix machines, maybe even 125s with slick tyres, it's a totally different feeling, and a lot of the riders do not like riding on the production-based tyres. But Ives, you can see, has a definite speed advantage. They've obviously got that machine tuned a little bit better than Weston's, and that's what it's all about, having your equipment better than the next guy.
Well, Steve Ives' equipment certainly appears to be good. He's alongside again, Gary Weston. He's on the inside, braking hard, but Weston's good on the brakes. He's on the outside line, chops back across the front. But what a tremendous battle between these two. Ives has got every bit as much speed as Gary Weston's machine. He draws alongside where it matters, but Gary Weston is good on the brakes, sticks it into the turn and closes the door.
Yeah, you can see Gary Weston again pulling across the front of Steve Ives, and that's it. Stay on the inside, make the guy behind go the long way round. But the way Steve Ives is riding and the speed he has, he's probably going to do just that.
We've talked before, Steve, about the battle at the front, getting the riders away or allowing the others to close, and this is a typical example where the scrap between these two means they're getting in each other's way, and the rest of the pack now is really on their tails. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 riders within a 50-yard stretch at Pembrey here, and it's super stuff in the 600s. Steve Ives leads from Gary Weston. In third place, it's number 21, Jim Moody. In fourth place, it's still number 5, Phil Borley. And number 33, Mark Farmer, is now down to 5th. But look at the battle now between third and fourth. Jim Moody, the Glaswegian, moves out and lets Phil Borley back through. So Phil Borley, number 5, up to third. There he is in your picture now. From Southend-on-Sea, 25 years of age. He got faster as 1989 went on and rounded off the 1989 season with a third place at Brands, the last round for Phil Borley.
Yeah, Phil Borley's doing extremely well in the European Championships at the moment. He rode a Honda last year, had a lot of success, but it seems the switch to Yamaha's given him even more because he's now right with the leaders. I could Phil Borley because he's riding very well. He's had a lot of experience on these 600 machines. But Steve Ives, I cannot believe the speed advantage he has. So I think everyone needs to go to his engine tuner.
Well, you so rightly said, Steve, that Phil Borley was storming on in the European. In fact, he led the Austrian round for over 10 laps on the St. Neots motorcycles, FZR 600 Yamaha. So Borley now going for second place and grabbing it. Phil Borley is in second place. Can he stay there? He forced Gary Weston on the Cat Motorcycles machine out. He's up into second. Steve Ives is ahead of him. This is a tremendous
And
race.
we just saw, I think it was John Reynolds go straight on at the hairpin. He was trying to outbrake 2 or 3 riders, and John Reynolds, I think, went straight on at the hairpin. So that's going to be disaster for him. Yeah, unfortunately, he's out of the race. So that's disastrous. He's leading the championship, or he was leading the championship. So unfortunately, a major problem there for John Reynolds.
That puts a totally different complexion on the point situation with Reynolds out of the race, because he was leading, as you say, Steve, on 19 points. And now look at Phil Borley. Phil Borley, number 5. There is absolutely no quarter asked or given in this 600cc racing. Borley riding the race of his life here, number 5. Gary Weston coming back, number 26. So Gary Weston and Steve Ives leaning on each other in pursuit of Phil Borley from Southend-on-Sea, having made the long trip to West Wales, to the Pembrey circuit, being amply rewarded well into the race now with the lead in the 600 Supersport class.
Unreal. Phil Borley is absolutely flying. He's the man at the moment, I think. He's had a lot of experience. We were talking about European Championship, where the competition is even tougher than we have here today, because you have the best 10 possibly from each country throughout Europe, and he's certainly gained a lot of experience. And having a quick look behind there, not always a wise thing to do. You can sometimes frighten the life out of yourself when you look behind. There's a gaggle of 13 riders nearly right behind him.
A couple of national wins and a lap record under his belt in 1989 was the sum total of Phil Borley's success last season. But as I said earlier, he really did come good towards the end of the year, culminating in that 3rd place at Brands, and now he's leading this, the 3rd round at Pembrey, in very convincing fashion. But number 37, Steve Ives from Hyde in Cheshire, just has not given up. Gary Weston is in 3rd, Mark Farmer is in 4th. And Mike Edwards is in 5th. From Wigan in Lancashire, Mike Edwards with the yellow patch on his black leathers. He is really in touch. Just look at Mike Edwards. He's pulling the wheel up. There's Mike Edwards. Had he not slid off at Cadwell in the wet last week, it would have been a very different story for Mike Edwards, because he had 8 points from the first ride. He was well up last week when he slid off, and he's determined now to capitalise on that 8 and do something here at Pembrey.
Yeah, poor Mike Edwards, he's given himself a hard time because he was out in the race previous on a 750 Ducati, and you couldn't have 2 more different machines to try and ride, so it's a little bit of a handicap to start with, and it's going to take him a few laps to get in the swing of things. And in this class, there's no way you can give away 2 or 3 laps, but he is charging now, and he's actually now got the fastest lap, so Mike Edwards is coming through the pack.
Must have taken him a little bit of time to get readjusted back from the sports motorcycle 750 Ducati, the machine which should have been ridden by Paul Lewis, of course. Lewis out from injury, so Edwards took that vacant seat, put his leg over a 750 for the first time ever, and now he's back on a 600, which he knows and loves so well, and he would have won the championship last year had he not crashed, and you remember it well, Steve Parrish, at Paddock Bend.
Oh, yes, and he's just been taken out wide there. Mike Edwards was trying the outside line, but he was taken out wide, so that's put him back even further. The poor fellow, he really has given himself a handicap here. He started from mid-pack and he's worked his way through, and he's just lost another place there, but he'll be charging back up.
Jim Moody, number 21, in 4th place as we look at it. Right with him now is Paul Brooks and also Mike Edwards. There's the race leader. No, it isn't. The race, that's Gary Weston, number 26, I beg your pardon. The race leader still number 5, Phil Borley. Gary Weston pushing on, but look at Borley and Steve Ives still dueling for the lead, 1st and 2nd in your picture. Steve Ives has by no means given up. He is determined to get the win if he can. Phil Borley also has every intention of lifting the 10 points.
Now Brian Morrison has taken the fastest lap. In fact, that's 1 minute, 0.75. That's quite incredible for these 600 machines. It just shows how the depth in this class of racing, because Brian Morrison is in 9th position. He's taken the fastest lap. He's another rider that's had to get off of his 750 Honda and get on these 600 Yamaha, so it's also a hand riding in 2 classes.
Phil Borley, 6 laps remaining. In 2nd place, number 37, Steve Ives. These are the 1st and 2nd riders in the race. Out goes the knee, down through the gearbox again, cranks it over, knee on the tarmac. Immaculate 600cc riding. Do the tyres go off in this sort of distance?
Not quite so much as the slicks. The slicks are designed for racing, and the temperatures tend to go hotter and hotter, and then they sometimes start sliding. But these road tyres, they're not quite as fickle as the slick tyres, so I don't think they'll be having quite as many problems. And the great thing is that it's the same for everyone, because the tyres are virtually identical all the way through this field. You have all the major manufacturers, Metzeler, Avon, Goodyear, Bridgestone. There's an incredible amount of interest from the tyre companies at the moment. Dunlop are doing extremely well also.
You were talking about Brian Morrison making his way through, and he is indeed, and of course he finished 4th in the very wet Cadwell race. So Morrison also has moved up the championship. He's on 7 points, but look at Edwards. Edwards is past Moody and Mark Farmer, so Mike Edwards, number 1, is back on the charge again. There he is, that very, very distinctive, conspicuous black machine of Edwards. He's really forcing on. Mark Farmer is behind him, number 33. 15 laps we've done, 5 laps remain. Mike Edwards is on the boil. He's very talented and a hard man.
Yeah, very much so. He's sponsored by Charlie Williams, an ex-motorcycle road racer who was very, very talented, TT winner, and he's given him a lot of support, a lot of help, and look at him fly. He does a clear track in front of him, so I can see Mike Edwards catching that front pack, and then with 4 laps to go, he could hard time, but he has a bit of ground to make up. The front three could be holding themselves up.
Nothing between those two. Borley and Steve Ives, and Gary Weston has just blistered round to tack himself back on, so we now have the trio again at the front of the bunch. Steve Ives leads now. Phil Borley is back in second. Gary Weston has by no means given up. Let's keep our fingers crossed for this trio. We don't know which one is going to get it, and I don't intend to get into the £10 bet situation with Steve Parish. This really is an open book.
Yeah, very much so. As I said, even Mike Edwards could come in there, because these three are undoubtedly holding themselves up. They're trying to get 2 abreast, even sometimes 3 abreast around the corners, so there's no way they can get the right line. They're charging. I think Steve Ives, he's going to be the man to watch now, because he has, as I say, the quickest motorcycle out there, and he just needs to get onto that start and finish straight on the last lap, and he can win the race, because he certainly has a power advantage at the moment.
4 laps remaining. The full distance will have been a little under 30 miles when they've completed the race, but anything can happen here. It's very grey, very cloudy, but it is dry, and the surface here at Pembrey offers very good grip indeed, and that's essential, particularly with the road tyres that these 600cc machines use. The majority of the entry out on Yamaha, but there's a sprinkling of Honda and a handful of Kawasaki as well. But the FZR 600 Yamaha does appear to be the 600 bike at the moment.
Yeah, virtually all the top riders have switched to the Yamaha this year because it was winning so many races last year, and it's nearly a one-mate class now, but things can change around, but at the moment the Yamaha is far superior to anything else. And as we can see that there's very little in those Yamahas, apart from it does seem that, I was about to say, Steve Ives has that advantage with speed, but he's been passed. It's neck and neck as they come down now onto one of the fastest parts of the circuit, so we'll probably see Ives is in front once again. This is a place he needs to be in front on the last lap. But it's got to be, because Weston's on the inside. Weston is riding the wheels off of this Yamaha.
A good effort by the Cat Motorcycles Yamaha rider. Gary Weston and Steve Ives tweaks a little bit more out of his Yam, and also Phil Borley comes up to join them again. They're 3 abreast going into the right-hander, but Weston slides through from Steve Ives, and there's Borley poised, and Mike Edwards is closing. Mike Edwards now is tagging himself onto the back of that trio and about to make it into a quartet. Look at Mike Edwards closing. He really is piling on the coals now. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see a lap record come up from Mike Edwards. The way he's going, he must have put in a blistering pace that time.
Yeah, without a doubt. As we were saying, it's such a shame that he didn't get going early on in the race, because he does seem to be the fastest rider out there. But getting off of a machine that's totally different takes you a while to get your braking points sorted out, how much the power delivery is, and even the tyre difference. So I could say it takes 2 or 3 laps to really get in the swing of things, and there's just not time for that in 600cc class racing at the moment.
Well, he's had a couple of moments as well, and if he hadn't had those moments, then he might well have been in the lead. The one situation that you described where it nearly put him onto the grass, that lost him at least 3 places.
Yeah, without a doubt. But there's still a big battle up the sides again with his power advantage. He's got on the wrong line, though. There's no way, because Weston holds a tight line, keeps it on the inside, uses all the road, drifts out the outside, small wheelie there as he feeds the power in. But that's not always the fastest way to get the front wheel in the air. You need to keep both wheels on the ground to be going quick.
You were talking about the series almost being a one-make series. Well, in 1988, it was indeed a one-make series by design, and that was then the Honda CBR Challenge. And Gary Weston finished 5th in 1988. He finished 3rd last year. He would dearly love to win this year. He's currently sitting in 2nd place in the championship, and he is leading this race on his way now to 10 points. But Steve Ives, the man just 2 lengths behind him, has other ideas. Number 37, Steve Ives. Still, Phil Borley about to lose 3rd place to Mike Edwards. So Edwards now pushing Borley hard for 3rd. So we have a battle for 1st and 2nd. We have an equally determined fight for 3rd and 4th. They are on their last lap, 1.49 miles to do of the Pembrey circuit, and we have any one of 4 riders at the front of the bunch could take the win.
Yeah, I don't think I want to watch this. This is going to be an incredible last lap, because they're all so evenly matched, riding-wise and motorcycle-wise. I think Mike Edwards has blown it. He's too far back. There's no way. It's got to be between Steve Ives and Gary Weston. Now, Weston is now on the tighter part of the course, where he seems to be making up time, so he'll be desperately keen to just keep those few yards in front.
Into the S's, rounding the right-hand S's, up now towards the Brooklands hairpin. A very, very tight, right-hander. Round they go. They're on the Brooklands hairpin. Ahead of them lies the Speedway Straight. Up through the gearbox here. A very quick part indeed to Woodlands. The right-hander of Woodlands comes next. And still the race leader, Gary Weston from Steve Ives, up to Forest Curve. Forest Curve will take them onto the fastest part of the circuit and the checkered flag. So, sprinting towards the line. Weston gets it from Ives, Phil Borley and Mike Edwards fourth. We could not have asked for a better 600 race and a tremendous climax, and Gary Weston took the win. The rest of the field is breathless as we are in the commentary box. There's your winner, Gary Weston. Number 26, Gary Weston. Number 37, Steve Ives, took second place. There it is. Ives in second, Phil Borley, Mike Edwards. Brian Morrison fought from 9th to take 5th, and number 78 came home, and that was McDonald on yet another Yamaha. What a superb 600 race.